Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah.
Here it comes. Y'all ready? You ready? Boom! For the FPV news. Are you ready, Blunty?
I'm ready.
You got some news queued up?
We got some news. We got all the news.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All the news. Damn, that's a high bar.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of it. But
we got
if
most
I say all of it, then if we can only be wrong if somebody sends me more news.
Oh, so that's good, because then that encourages them to send us more news. It makes your job easier when people send you news.
And if you do have news to send it to news@fpvknowitall.com. Don't forget.
Ooh, call to action right at the beginning of the video. What percent of the news do you find on your own versus stuff that gets sent to the news@fpvknowitall.com? What percent?
Probably 70% me, just digging around on Discord and Facebook and all the places, and then 30% people. If you count what people send in that I had already found, then probably like 50 or 60% is stuff people send in, so something like that.
Oh, it's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually am happy that you're doing this, because I find out things from you. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like, it just helps keep me in touch. That's why I do the new product roundup too. It's just to like help keep me. It's all for me. It's all about me. Did you know? I mean, this is not really a news item. I took a test on the live stream yesterday to find out if I'm a narcissist.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So on a scale of the scale was I got like 18 points, where that's moderately narcissistic.
Okay.
Like 20 or above, I think, was like extremely narcissistic.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
What is hard to say?
If you're narcissistic or not. It's hard to say. If I was to say if I'm narcissistic or not.
You could take the test.
I could.
That you know.
Medically valid test, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, completely on the internet. On some, it was on. I think it was BuzzFeed.com. No.
Yeah. Do they also have an IQ test? Can I take both at once?
And you can find out which of the friends you are.
I was going to say, yeah, which X-Men character?
Oh, I think we all know which X-Men character you are.
Gambit.
It's plausible. See, I was going to go with my very first off-the-cuff guess was going to be Beast because you're like a hairy guy.
Yeah.
But Beast is like, he's a scientist. You're a marijuana cannabis scientist. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Despite what you may think from our banter, this is the FPV news where we are going to bring you up to date on. Nope, no head cam. If Blunty's not on, I'm not on. Nope. We're going to bring you up to date on the news in the world of FPV. But let me first welcome you. Say thank you guys for being here in the chat and show you my main screen right here. I'll be reading your chats during watching what you say. If you want to leave a super chat, please do. Although we're going to save the super chats till the end because this is the news, not the Q&A. But we will read the super chats at the end. We'd love to have your contributions. And speaking of contributions, thank you so much to the patrons over here on the Discord server, and their beautiful animated images, the name of which I will not say. If you want to join them, you can become a patron using the link in the video description. Are you a GIF or a GIF man, Blunty?
A GIF. It's a GIF.
Just a GIF. Thank you. It's a GIF, clearly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I like you a lot better now. All right. We are going to get started, though, with a couple of quick items. I wanted to start. I bumped this one to the front, Blunty, because I think it's very important. It is a legal related, drone related thing. And it is, there's a court case happening in Ottawa County, Michigan. And it's important. So you're like, oh, well, I don't live in Ottawa County, Michigan, so I don't give a damn. No, I wouldn't waste your time. Ottawa County, Michigan instituted a drone ordinance that disallows drones being flown on or near county property. And that they're not allowed to do that. The federal government says that not only does the federal government say you can't do that, only the FAA can do that, but there's also a Michigan state law that says that counties can't do that. So they're breaking the law 6 ways to Sunday. And if they don't raise money to actually fight it, they're going to get away with it. And that will be very bad because it will set a bad precedent. Ryan Quellet lives in Ottawa County, Michigan. That's really something. That's amazing. So if you care about drones and you have the means, the link is in the video description in the show notes. Please donate. This is a case that if we win this, it'll set a precedent in a good way. If we lose this, it'll set a precedent in a bad way. And Ryan LaTourette reached out to me and said, hey, can you help signal boost this? Ryan has done a lot of great things for drones. He's yeah, so that's my signal boost there. Anything to add, Blunty?
No, yeah, that's about right. Just make sure, if you care about that kind of stuff, hopefully you can help out because it will set a precedent for, I believe, all of Michigan. If they do get that. So.
And I said to Ryan, I said, why isn't the state attorney general fighting this? The state has a law that says counties are not allowed to do this. And a county is like, I'm going to do the thing you said I couldn't do. Shouldn't the state AG be doing this? Why is a private citizen having to do this? And the answer is because bullshit. But so let me get this straight. Because if I break a Michigan state law, I will be prosecuted by the state of Michigan, presumably. There won't be a private, the AG won't be like, or the district attorney won't be like, no, sorry, we can't do anything about that. But apparently if a Michigan county breaks the state law, oh, somebody's got to sue them. Okay, well, there you go. All right. And that's the one type of politics I will put on my channel, which is explicitly drone-related politics. All the other politics, stay away. All righty. Blunty, next up. What do we got next, Blunty?
All right, we got a bunch of PSAs for you today, so buckle in, because you're going to learn some stuff that will hopefully help you or help a friend. If you got a friend that maybe has some problems, you can tell them like, hey, I heard this on the news.
Yeah,
so,
get the word out.
Yeah, so number one, Redpine is not using the fast speed you think it is, unless you're on DeviationTX. So a lot of people are running Redpine on OpenTX and EdgeTX.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And on those systems, through the multi-protocol module, you are not getting the speed Redpine expects. You are in fact doubling and tripling packets, and it is not a proper link on the on that module.
This is my bad. I have to apologize. I didn't know this at the time that I made the video. I have also tried to get the word out, but I was like, Redpine's so good. And there are still maybe reasons to run Redpine. I mean, it's still faster than D8.
Yeah, especially if you have DeviationTX, I think like it's a killer. It's still that killer.
Oh, yeah, if you have DeviationTX, it's killer. Yeah. But you're not getting 666 hertz. You're getting 142 hertz if you're using EdgeTX or OpenTX with a multi-protocol module. And worse than that, it's inconsistent, which messes up Betaflight 4.3's feed forward and filtering.
Well, I was going to say, so people are saying it's better than D8 or D16. I'm not sure that it is until there's a feed forward setup for this protocol. Like once there's a preset for it, I think maybe it will be better, but I'm not sure if you're getting double and triple packet like information, if that's better or worse than single packets delivered like at a slower rate. I'm not sure that I
consistently slower packets could give you better sort of stick feel, better motor response.
Yeah.
So like, why hasn't someone just made a filter preset for it? It's 142 hertz. Just get on it.
I know somebody is currently working on that. I talked to them today.
Okay, great. It's not available yet though, is it?
No, not that I know.
Okay. Here's a message from Bryce Johnson, the guy behind Redpine. Yes, I know the protocol's 3 to 4 years old, Bryce. I said in the video, I'm not the first to make this by a long shot, but I thought I would help get the word out just because there's a really interesting, use case. Everybody's like, Bardwell, why did it take you so long to get to this? I don't know. There's a lot of things in the world.
You should have.
I can't do them all.
Should have done like black and white colorized.
Yeah, right. Okay. Alrighty. All right. Next PSA. Moving on.
All right. So the next PSA, if you're running Bluejay and you have an H ESC, so if your ESC is like GH30 or like ZH90, any of the H in the center, you're going to want to make sure you're probably not using 0.15 of Bluejay. So there's a patch that's been delivered, so you can either use 0.16, which is in testing, or if you don't want to use test firmware for any reason, you can do 0.14 instead.
Okay. And this is very confusing because it works. You plug in and the motors tab shows 100% errors, but then as soon as you raise the throttle, it works, which is very confusing. But without RPM telemetry, I don't know, would that mess up your RPM? Why not just say, screw it. We'll just have no RPM telemetry when the motors are not spinning. Could you just ignore it?
It won't arm, so you run no bidirectional D-shot because it's 100% error.
Oh, right. Of course, you'll get RPM filter error. You can spin it with the motors tab, but you can't arm. Got it. Okay. Yep. And this is not just the Beast F7, right? It's
any H ESC. So there's different types. There's like L ESCs and H ESCs. So if you got like a GH30 or any of those kind of ESCs, you'll want to use the 0.16 version for testing, or just go to 0.14 until that 0.16 is in release. So.
And it's so cool that this happened right at the time that I made a video saying how good Bluejay was and how everybody should use it. And then, like, by sheer coincidence, there's this major bug.
Yeah, the other fix is you can go down to DShot 300 if you really don't want to flash again. It's only a bug with DShot 600, but you can also just flash down. So
that's what I would do. I don't think the difference is that profound, but anyway, okay. Now we've got the word out. Our duty as a PSA is fulfilled. Next up, a problem with Betaflight Configurator Presets. So if you're using Betaflight Configurator RC2, which you should be if you're trying Betaflight RC at all. RC2 is the latest. You cannot use presets anymore because they made a change on the back end to how the presets are done, and that change will not be reflected in the configurator until RC3. So
Yes.
what should people do if they want to use presets with RC2 today? Blunty?
Yeah, so if you are using presets now, or if you want to use presets and you're trying to apply them, then you will need to use the nightly configurator, which is linked here in the Facebook post. We've also linked in the description. You'll want to download the nightly configurator. And the nightly configurator will have support for those presets, but will also still run your RC2 firmware on your flight controller.
Okay. And this is all Ivan Efimov, the creator of Presets, fault. Yep. Ivan giveth and Ivan taketh away. And there was somebody in the comments who he was like, you know, you Betaflight guys, you release this product and then it's broken. And Ivan was like, it hasn't released yet. What are you talking about? It's in RC. It's a release candidate. He's like, I don't know. I've just seen a whole bunch of people been saying they're using it. It's like, yes, it hasn't released yet, though. And also, I'm pretty sure this is the first time the presets got broken. But hey,
yes,
I am angry and will yell on the internet.
He said it was a breaking change they had to make. And he said you got to pull the Band-Aid off sometime. So, well,
better to pull the Band-Aid off in RC than after release, which would really be annoying. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last PSA.
Yes.
Oh,
this is kind of a refresher, a reminder. We've said this before. I said this.
No, this was supposed to be fixed. Sorry for talking over you.
I said this a couple months ago, but Tbs Agent X is still broken. So please let your friends, your family, your significant others know that do not update your TBS radios with Agent X. I believe it's still fine to update receivers and TX modules, but it seems like anytime you're updating your Tango 2 or your Mambo with Agent X, and I believe it's to do with the double flash. That's what Fly High FPV thinks he has figured out, is it's only when you flash twice because you're flashing the radio and then the crossfire module, and that's when the hang happens. Either way, you will brick the radio to the point where you need to use the bootloader. And so he's given you an example of a video here as well, how to unbrick it if you need it. So, and instead of Agent X, you want to be using Agent M, which Bardwell is shown here. So
yeah, TBS Agent M, just Google search TBS Agent M. It's a web version of Agent X, and it doesn't have whatever bug is causing this issue. This is infuriating. Maybe that's too strong a word. I don't know. As a Crossfire customer, like I've seen so many posts and gotten messages from so many people, and then TBS said, guys, we fixed it. 6.13, flash 6.13, and I said, hey, we fixed it, yay! And then it's still not freaking fixed.
Yep.
And it's really not a good time because, I mean, isn't the argument that I'm not going to say TBS makes this argument. I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but some people say, you know, ExpressLRS has all these things, but TBS is solid. They're a real company. They make good hardware, and their firmware is reliable. And then they're freaking bricking their own radios and double flash bricking their own receivers. And it's just bad luck, but it sure is bad luck.
Yeah. I would agree. It's unfortunate, and I hope they get it figured out because, yeah, there's been a lot of easy. TBS for a long time has been the easy thing. Just do it, hit the buttons, it all works. So hopefully they can get back to that point because I don't think anybody's mad that was happening. It's very nice.
And just to be clear, we're not just bitching, although we are bitching. We're providing solutions. The solution is, number one, flash using TBS Agent M in the web, not TBS Agent X. And number two, go to these videos down in the video description, which show if your radio is bricked. Thank you, Fly High FPV, for putting that out there. It shows the process for recovering it. It's not a permanent brick. You'll be fine. You just have to flash it the right way, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. PSAs. We're done.
We're done with the PSAs. Yay!
All right. On to news and information.
Official news and information.
Yes.
The first news.
Right. So, you ever wanted to know how many people are using Betaflight? Like flashing stuff or connecting or who's got what flight controller, all that kind of stuff?
I've wanted that for the longest time.
Well, it turns out there's a way you can do that. And there's a website that we've got linked in the description where you can see all the stats from Betaflight Configurator.
And this is like, I put in the title, you know, secret Betaflight stats leaked. And I said that because no one knows this exists except Blunty. You said it was linked in the wiki. So it shows how many people actually read the wiki.
Mr. Ivan, who does the presets and various configurator and Betaflight stuff, also pointed me to this, and he said I can share it because it is publicly available.
So what can we learn from this?
Never seen it. All kinds of stuff, I feel like.
Well,
so you get a date range in the top right corner. So you can always pick any date range we want to see who's using what when.
Oh, let's do like.
Why don't you do this for me? Go real quick. Go down and go pick a range.
Pick any date range.
Where you can do the custom range at the bottom. So.
Okay, what I want to do is I'm thinking I'm going to do like January 1st, 2021 through like December 31st. So all of 2021.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was going to say, one of the cool things you get to see here is like, it looks like everybody uses the configurator on weekends.
Yeah, that makes sense. We got this.
I was talking to Nate Payne a little bit before the stream about, so we were talking about industry stats and how many people buy stuff and who owns what. And I thought it was pretty interesting. He pointed out that people are looking at Betaflight Configurator on the weekends, it looks like, except for Christmas.
Except for Christmas, right. People get Christmas vacation and then that periodicity goes away. You can also see an uptick in use of the configurator around, let's see, it looks like it peaks around March and then down through April. So the March, April, so spring in the USA or fall in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
What is...
You can also see, the most popular config /
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
Omnibus F4 SD is the most popular config. Oh my God. So many flight controllers use that layout. And then Fury F4 OST for the same reason.
Yeah. Happy Model coming in nice with a Crazy Bee. That's like...
Yeah.
That's the 4th place, and that's probably like all the Mob 6s and stuff that are out there.
Yeah. Very interesting. Airbot Omnibus F4 and F4. Who's still flashing Omnibus F4 no SD? That's apparently so old.
Oh, 50,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
Or 50,000 flashes, events.
I wonder, surely none of these are like a manufacturer who is using configurator to flash at the factory. Surely they're not doing it that way. They're burning it onto the chip directly, right?
I would assume it's direct flash somehow with a tool or, not through configurator. I can't imagine there's no bash flash that we know of in there, so.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be hilarious if like this was number one because like Airbot just has like 10 interns sitting at computers flashing thousands of flight controllers using the configurator. Surely that's not true.
Duck My Squee in the chat points out if you add up the Maytech F411 and F411 RX together are more than the omnibuses. So
interesting. How about good old JBF7? Only that. How about that? Is that going to work? Have I messed it up? I broke it. I think
I think that's only 4.3. Yeah.
Oh, where's my JBF7? Where's my flight controller?
I wonder how that works.
It's not working like I would think it would. That's for sure. Okay. Well, I guess we'll never know. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, maybe limited by another checkbox somewhere.
Huh. I don't know. Oh, flashing origin file. Nope. All right, well, moving on.
Somehow you've gotten on scroll up.
I've broken it.
Yeah.
Let me try reloading. Yeah, it's alive again. Yeah, I did something weird. How about last year? Can I just say last year? Last year. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Oh, right.
Alrighty. Any other good information? I want to know, Blunty, you've got a survey up right now asking people about, what receiver they're using and so forth. Can we get that information from here? Do they show like what receiver type is selected?
Not sure. It's kind of, if you dig a little bit, I keep finding stuff.
Okay.
In here. Like I was trying to find earlier VTX, like how many times the VTX table was applied to try to maybe discern out analog users versus digital or something.
I guarantee they're saving that information, although I don't see it here. Like what? Yeah.
It might be one of the event actions. There's some different things in there. So I'd encourage anybody who likes data stuff to dig through here and try to see what you can find.
Serial RX board type S411. Yeah, I doesn't see, but maybe it's in there somewhere. Oh, alrighty. Well, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. So if you like the data, that's there. And then also I pulled another little bit of data here. Is a download count. There's a tool I found that you can check the download count on a GitHub project. And we can see just in this little bit here, we can see downloads. I think the significant way to look at it is probably like look at 10.7. So 10.7 is, if you scroll down, 10.7 is 665.
665,000 downloads at 10.7.
Yeah. And then 10.6 was 494,000. So
it looks like the Betaflight user base grew pretty significantly between 10.6 and 10.7.
Yeah, it also might be like release window or timing, but I know it's been a while since
that's true.
Since 10.7. So
yeah, I mean, it could be people downloading it multiple times, but that doesn't seem super likely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some percentage of that, but I know a lot of those are probably uniques as well. So
yeah,
and interesting to see.
Yeah, people you try to estimate the size of the FPV market, like how many global FPV pilots are there. And obviously Betaflight is not 100% of the FPV pilots, but not by a long shot. But if you have 600 to 700,000 Betaflight downloads, then I feel pretty confident. Would you say like, oh, there's 10 million FPV pilots in the world? No, probably not.
No, but there's, I mean, like, 1 million seems reasonable from that number. Like, cause there's going to be people flying like all those ready to flies and bind to flies and stuff. People who don't use configurator, people who use stuff that's not on it. So
yeah,
EmuFlight and KISS and iNav.
Yeah, I think you probably, if you doubled that number, there are not. I think that at least half of FPV pilots fly Betaflight. I think it's probably more than that, but I feel safe saying half. So roughly like 1.2, 1.3 million.
It makes sense that half of those people have downloaded configurator at some point in the last, 2 years or however long.
That's true. I mean, a person who flies KISS and Betaflight would still be counted in that number. What percent of FPV pilots have downloaded Betaflight at least once? Like, it's probably pretty high percent.
Yeah.
So now, if you wonder how big the FPV market is, that gives you a
maybe some insight
idea
in there, right? Yeah, some kind of idea.
Yeah. All right.
Well, from the Betaflight market, let's take a look at the racing. The racing stance in the we had the biggest Whoop race, the Whooptopia 2022, and we talked about how AK has won 3 times in a row. And we got a result. We want to give congratulations to the winner of Whooptopia 2022, TDog, who is actually local here in Denver. He races at our local shop.
Whoa. And you've got a link here, I think, to the final race. Do you want to watch that?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Let's take a look.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
We've got TDog.
This is it.
Agilis.
Here we go.
Orangestuff.
Keep your eye
and
on
Leviathan.
Bang, and they're off.
See if T-Dog can...
Where's T-Dog? He's lower left.
T-Dog in first place.
Orangestuff crashed.
Well out ahead.
Levi
T-Dog is not breathing right now. He's already halfway done with his first lap.
It's Jesse. These guys are
Jesse
so
Perkins.
fast.
How's your slice, T-Dog?
So
Perfect?
in control.
Of course it is. Here's our dive.
So,
Perfect.
One thing to notice while we're watching is Agilis is the only pilot in angle mode.
Careful.
Something we'll talk about.
Yeah.
He's converted me.
That angle mode, Blunty, we were talking about this before the stream. That angle mode. First of all, why do Whoop racing pilots, even the top tier, traditionally fly angle mode, Blunty? You want to start there?
Yeah, I would say just in general, because Whoop Acro is sort of a different kind of thing, right? Like Whoop Acro, like if you're flying a Whoop race, like the need for Acro is pretty low depending on the track design. So if you fly angle mode, you can easily get to a lot of the obstacles and do things that are very simple with 1 or 2 stick moves that might take a heavy combination and like tweaking through the whole time. You can kind of just go through a nice turn. That might be a little more difficult in an Acro mode.
Yeah, I've always said that one of the reasons Whoop pilots fly in angle mode is that when you're flying a Whoop, you're much more likely to hit obstacles and have less time to recover. There we go. Race is over. You hit obstacles, you're going to have less time to recover, because you're indoors, so you don't have like a big woo through the tree, through the air, and then angle mode recovers faster. Now, I don't know how much of an issue that is for top racing pilots. I've never 100% understood why they fly angle mode. Maybe there's more precision with angle mode because the stick position corresponds directly to the angle as opposed to, I don't know.
Well, part of what I'm going to say is I think part of this is tradition. And I think that might be part of what bled into it. Is like the top pilots were angle for so long, and now we have like more and more high performance brushless tiny whoops that are better and better at doing acro, and can sustain under their own weight and stuff. So I would guess that now we're just seeing people able to use the tools that we have to do as well as they can with the mode. And I think overall it makes sense to me that like if you have control of all the stick inputs, you will do better in acro with practice because like you have more control. Like angle is going to be like angle has a limit. Angle has limits. So even if you had to turn up your rates to 1800, right, or whatever it would need to be, you could counteract the same way that angle does. Like if you learned well enough, because angle is just a response from the flight controller, and you could do the same with RC input. So,
I noticed the pilot who was in the top left. I didn't catch which pilot was it. Hang on, let me.
Orangestuff, maybe.
Orangestuff. D-Thomps was. He seemed to be going hard and crashing a lot, and he would crash.
So,
go ahead.
Top left in that was Orangestuff. Just
I'm so sorry. I skipped back too far. I'm sorry. You're right. Orangestuff. Yeah. He would crash and he would turtle mode if he had to, and he would get back up in the air. It's interesting to think about if he had been in angle mode, would the quad have recovered, and would he been able to get flying sooner rather than waiting to turtle? But the counter argument to that, Blunty, that you made is that, well, why don't you say the counter argument? That you're faster in acro when there's vertical stuff.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you have a track that has like elements that are going to be like, split S's or at least that style of thing, where you're constantly going up and down and you have like hard dives and you need to hard dive and turn around an obstacle and stuff, acro is always going to be better at that kind of stuff because you don't have the angle limit to hold you back. So
yeah, like I'm thinking about the race that I went to recently in Knoxville, and Evan Turner was there, and he was fast as hell, as you would think. But there was a dive down through. You would come down the top of the cube and then out the front face, and the fast guys were really banking into it, right? Whereas I had to kind of just like lower my throttle and kind of fall into it, and I couldn't 100% see where I was going. And if I had been able to kind of bank over in acro mode, I would have been better. Of course, overall, I probably would have been worse because I also bounced off of a lot of things. But at the highest level, maybe acro is, 3 out of these 4 guys were running acro. Do you know what the breakdown was for the race as a whole?
I don't know. I think top 10 was like 3 or 4 out of 10 were angle. So I don't know. It's been coming up, that's for sure. So
yeah. I want to point out, I learned this from Evan. Well, I was reminded of this by Evan Turner. Betaflight crash recovery. There's a feature in Betaflight that a lot of people don't know it exists called crash recovery mode. It was introduced in Betaflight 3.2. And then basically, I made a post about it on Facebook a long time ago. And basically didn't really... I'm not sure if it didn't work reliably. Here, let's take a look. Here's dynamic filter crash recovery. I'm not sure if it didn't work reliably. Like, I know there were cases where it would trigger and would not recover, or it would trigger when it wasn't supposed to trigger. But basically, Betaflight tries to detect that you've hit something and then switch to angle mode real quick, recover the quad, and then give you back control. And Evan was flying it on his tiny whoop at this whoop race, and he said it was a really good combination of you're flying in acro mode, but then when you crash, it auto recovers like angle mode, and was kind of the best of both worlds. When is the actual crash? Can we have the actual? I don't know where it's going to be, but it's only 1:34. I guess I can wait. Have you tried that out, Blunty?
I have not.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems a little frustrating to lose control, but I guess if it's helping you recover like you would, maybe that's good. Cool Cat in the chat says, I don't get it. I don't even understand the difference between the two modes. So just to be clear, angle mode is like a self-leveling mode, essentially, like a like back to level on the accelerometer. So basically, angle mode, you only, like if you hold the pitch stick forward in angle mode, you only go as far as your angle limit. So let's say I set an angle limit of 85, and I hold the pitch stick forward. I'm going to go to 85 degrees, and even though I'm holding that pitch stick forward, that's just going to keep me at 85 degrees. And then I'm going to keep going at 85. And then when I let go of the pitch stick, it's going to spring back to center and level me back out. So that's kind of the goal.
Yeah. Whereas in Acro mode, if you push the stick forward, it'll just keep rotating. A short version is that Acro mode you can turn upside down, but it also doesn't auto-level itself. In angle mode, it does auto-level itself. And the key thing with angle mode is that if I have the stick centered, the quad will want to be level. And if I then hit a wall or something, it will automatically come back to level as long as I have the stick centered. So when I fly angle mode and I'm racing a whoop, you know, as I do all the time, if I hit something, I don't disarm, I just stop moving the stick and wait for the quad to recover itself, and then it usually will, and then I get back in it. Whereas in Acro mode, you have to recover yourself, and it happens too fast. Now here's Betaflight's crash recovery. We can see he tanks into the ground here, and then he didn't do that. The quad took over and automatically leveled him out and then gave him back control. And Blunty, that goes back to what you were saying. I mean, at that point, you're out of control. You just don't have control. You've crashed, and it's going to try and save you.
Seems scary.
Yeah. So if you fly whoops and you want to try flying in Acro mode, maybe give crash recovery still in Betaflight. It's just no one knows it exists. Maybe give it a try. The things that stopped people from using it, I think number one is there were some cases where it incorrectly detected a crash had occurred. Maybe you just have really high rates and do like a really violent snap roll, and it's like, oh shit, we're crashing. And then the other thing is that because it tries to level you out, it'll cause motor surges. And I think there may have been cases where people thought that it might have blown their ESC because it was surging too much. Gotcha. But give it a try. Anyway. Alrighty. Next up, Blunty. What do we got next?
All right. Next up, we got a community spotlight. So we're going to take a look at Mariano Dupont's GitHub page here. And we've also got a guide from Albert Kim, a video.
Let's look at that.
If you've got a Flysky i6X, you can run OpenTX, which a lot of people have asked for a long time. And that means you can run Express LRS at full speeds and perform as normal. It is not for the faint of heart. This is a complicated mod, and you can ruin your radio. But if you're not afraid to do some soldering and stuff, and you can follow some guides and you feel pretty competent, then you could mod your i6X to get full support, basically, for Luas and everything. So
yeah, I mean, here you're looking at it. This is clearly just OpenTX running on an i6X. Lua script and everything. Thank you to Albert Kim, whose video we're showing here. Linked in the video description. He has a full tutorial showing all of the steps you have to go through, including this tiny, fiddly little soldering. This is... And here's the thing. Who owns an i6X, Blunty?
Well, typically new pilots or pilots who don't have much, cheap quads. They bought like a used kit or something. That's kind of people typically.
Yeah. So the set of people who can do this soldering and go through these steps, and the people who own an i6X, is the overlap of those sets is relatively small. But I got to say, I mean, I remember when I was trying to do a telemetry mod to my Turnigy 9X, my first radio when I got into the hobby, and I screwed it up and I ruined the board. And that was my incentive to get a different radio. I bought my my Tyrannus at that point, but I was like, hell, I'm going for it, right? What's the worst that could happen? To be able to have OpenTX and Express LRS on such an inexpensive radio is very very compelling. And a lot of people who have this radio just because it came with a bind and fly Or I got to say, there's people in some parts of the world where this is like the only radio they can get.
That's a great point too. Where there's some people who maybe only have this, or who are competent but can't get the parts or the hardware.
Yeah.
If you also maybe you have one of these sitting around and you want to get your friend into the hobby, you can get him in with a radio that actually fully supports modern protocol and stuff.
Yeah. So. Now Tom Shu in the Discord wants to know if it works on the FSI 6, no X, or does it only work on the Are they the same radio? The i6X and the FSI 6? I'm not
sure. He might say in here, let's see.
They seem like the same radio, but that doesn't mean that they are.
He doesn't say, so I'm not sure if it does or not.
Yeah. Well, you could always, I guess, you could always go to discussions and start a new discussion on the GitHub.
Sure.
I'm not sure what the etiquette is there, but does this also work on the Flysky i6 no X? Right? So if you really want to know, just start a new discussion over on the GitHub page. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save it for you if you really want to know. Very cool. Thank you so much, Mariano Dupont.
This will not work on the Flysky i6. I did find that. So.
Oh, okay. Darn.
Yes. It has a different, less capable MCU. So it looks like it's probably not really a candidate for this because it probably won't run OpenTX on the MCU.
That sucks. The i6X is not as common as the i6. So, all right. Good to know. We have another community spotlight, but before we do, we're going to split the community spotlights. Before we do that, we're going to tell you about a couple of events, drone events that are coming up in the world. And the first one, they finally announced, people have been asking if Rotor Riot Rampage is happening this year. They finally announced that it is. Rotor Riot Rampage is happening, and you can buy tickets right now.
Absolutely. In May. Happening in May.
Yeah. They are currently in the price, I think it's discounted for early bird pricing. The link in the video description is an affiliate link. And, of course, when you click that affiliate link, I get a small commission, as I often say, but also all of the Rotor Riot pilots are sharing their affiliate links around, and there's a certain amount of prestige. You get to be Drew's favorite if you sell the most. And I want to be Drew's favorite, so click that link.
It sounds a little culty. That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway, Rotor Riot Rampage. Cool. It was really cool last year. They have on-site, the site that has it has these on-site trailers with basically dorm rooms in them, single-person rooms, beds. There's a shower trailer. So, the top passes, you don't even have to camp if you don't want to, although some people obviously like camping. But it was really nice. They're doing it all up with VIP reception dinner with Rotor Riot pilots and staff. Well, Blunty, what would you pay to be able to have dinner with a Rotor Riot pilot? Don't answer that. Anyway, in addition, there's one more event, Blunty. Tell us about it.
Yeah, also we've got the first inaugural Ice Storm drone racing competition in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're going to have a multi-GP competition there from April the 29th through May the 1st. And there's $25,000 in prize money, so it'll be the biggest drone race in that part of the country. And there'll be more information closer to the event, but they wanted to let people know that that's going to be happening soon. And get ready. Be prepared to go out to Milwaukee for a giant multi-GP race if that's what you're into. Yeah.
I thought their website was going to be ready. I thought their website was supposed to be ready by Monday. I guess it's not. Or
did some digging. I could not locate anything.
Yeah, okay. I asked them. They said we're going to be doing this multi-GP. They were going to be doing this drone race. It's going to be in a giant ice rink. And I said, "Oh, that sounds cool. Who's designing your track?" Because I was like, this could go either way. It could be super cool, or it could be super weird and lame. But they're like, no, multi-GP. Our multi-GP club is designing the track, and so it's going to be a big race. We will let you know more about that as information is available. Yeah, Kim Fused FPV is like, what? Our town has a event? Holy shit!
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so those are the events. Now we come back to another community spotlight from our good friend Sander Dubronner. Sander Dubronner I guess he's a professional RF person. He has all this expensive test equipment, and then he tests antennas and shit for us. And I said, we had a debate, Blunty, triggered by a community spotlight several weeks ago, that little thing that lets you mount your antenna outside your car. Do you remember that?
Yes, that little antenna window holder. We were talking about the extensions that you would have to use to use that from inside your car.
Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, let me just go to like Amazon and just look it up. Coaxial pigtail. For people who don't know what we're talking about, just in case, we're talking about these little coaxial pigtails, right? So the idea is that you buy this pigtail and you put your antenna outside your car, and then you don't have all the metal of your car blocking your signal. And I said, I think that these pigtails are so cheaply made and bad quality, I'm not sure I would trust them. And Sander was like, well, do you want me to test them? And I was like, yes, of course. And so he did, and here are the results. Where are the results? Hold on. There we are. Let's see, Blunty, what should we focus on? By the way, this link to this page is in the show notes in the video description, of course. But let's take a look at the results, Blunty.
Yeah, so he did a few different lengths. He did a larger piece of coax for the 10 meter, just because that's all he had, 10 centimeters. And then he had some more lengths at 50, 25, and 15 of the smaller cables.
Centimeters.
For the RG174. And he tested the loss on those just to see what they were and how consistent they were.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting to me, Blunty. The actual loss numbers, like we could look up a good quality RG174 cable from a company like Times Microwave, and they would tell you the loss per dB, and we could see whether these cheap-ass shitty ones were better or worse. But what's most interesting to me is actually the consistency.
Yeah, for sure. He said when he ordered these, he basically did it by asking other people, like in groups he was in Discord, what they would order, and then he ordered those just to test them out. And he found quite a bit of variance there. Also, a lot of variance on that one, especially at 50.
The 50, yeah. So looking at the 50 centimeter cables, they're pretty consistently around 5 dB, which is that's 6 dB is about half, 50% of your range. You've cut your range in half with 6 dB of loss. So simply by using this cable, you've cut your range in half. Was it worth it? Well, only you can answer that question. But then there's this one cable that was 16 dB. Oh, that's much worse.
Yeah. Right? Surprisingly worse. Over double is worse,
Yeah.
So,
similar with the 25 centimeter cables. 3, normal ones. And then, bam! 2 of them are just way out there. Same with the 15s. Then the 10s were higher quality, but even then, one of them was way out there. So what is the lesson of this testing, Blunty?
I think that the couple lessons here, one is only use an extension if you have to use an extension. I think that's always a good rule. 2 is make sure that when you're using extensions, I would say either compare a few, like a lot of them come with like a 5-pack or a 10-pack. Maybe you compare a few, especially if you've got like a Mergent RC power meter, you can at least compare each of the 5 together to see which one is worse or better. And then I would also say, do the range testing before you take it out and do something dangerous with it, right? So if you're going to use an extension, also do it like a walk test or do like a video test like you normally would do and see what you've lost there. Make sure you're not going to fail safe around the corner like you're not expected to. So
I agree. I mean, these cables, obviously I used to be an RF professional, did Wi-Fi stuff, and obviously we use coax cables all the time. You want to put an antenna at the top of a mast, you're going to use a cable running down the mast. But you're going to be using like big, thick, high quality, professionally made. Probably don't need to be just going like this on a live stream. These little cables are just not made, even in the best case, they're not made to be used like over long distances. And these cables specifically are very poorly made, like so they can sell them to you for beans. So I did like what you said, though, Blunty, about the RF power meter, which brings us to a piece of news that I found. It's not in the news, but I think it's worth mentioning. This tool has been out of stock forever, and it's a super, super useful little tool for doing things like this. Are my coaxial cables messed up? Like, it can absolutely answer that question for you. Yes. Like, it's not lab grade, but it can tell the difference between 6 dB and 15 dB.
Yeah, I think the best thing for it is comparisons. I think it's really good at like comparing 3 different things in your same environment, right? I think it's really good at that.
And Tony Cake just announced on Facebook that they had finally gotten enough components to do another run. So if you have wanted to buy an immersion RC power meter for the longest time, soon you will be able to try to get one. So that's nice to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty. Thank you. Aber in the Discord asks for similar loss testing for right angle adapters. I have to say, I suspect, we know that there's some loss with the right angle adapters. I suspect that they are more consistent because like with coaxial cable, you have to like strip the braid and turn back the braid and swage on the connector, and maybe there's some soldering, and there's a lot of places you can screw it up. And also just the cable itself is made to very, very poor tolerances. So the thickness of the dielectric is not consistent, etc. But with the right angle adapter, it's literally just like a little piece of wire, and there's nothing to it. I bet they're way more consistent, but I don't know.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. Thank you, Sandra Dubronner, for giving us these valuable information. Yeah, great. Next up, we have a notification about a 10-day. We got so many emails about this to the news@fpvknowitall.com submission. This 10-day drone show in Melbourne, Australia, which I will strictly say with my American accent to avoid offending any Australians by insulting their accent.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm not better than that. I just don't want to be annoyed by people yelling at me.
So this is pretty cool. There's a drone show going on every night over in Melbourne. So if you're over there, check it out. It's at 9:30 and 10:30 over Victoria Harbour, over the Docklands, I guess. So that's pretty cool. If you want to see a public drone show, then you can go do that. Pretty neat.
I have a confession to make, Blunty.
What's that?
Well, I read public 10-day drone show in the show notes, and I thought there were literally going to be drones flying for 10 days straight.
Did I clickbait you in the show notes?
I mean, that's still pretty cool, but not as cool as if they were somehow going to keep the drones flying for 10 whole days. All right. Alrighty. What's next?
Well, let's see. Next up, we've got Liftoff. It's got a new physics update. So Liftoff is constantly updating their programs and getting all kinds of stuff situated, and they've had a new physics update and experimental for a while, and now it's official. So Physics 5.0 has been released. And one of their big things is they're relying less on Unity's physics engine, and they're going to their own solution for that. So they're doing better performance. And they've got they're basically saying they've also got this. I don't know how many sims do this, but this is really smart if other sims don't. They say they have an AI PID tune feature, which you're like, why do you need to tune PIDs on a sim? But they're saying basically if your system runs it worse and does a worse job at the simulation, it will tune the quad to how bad your computer does, so it still performs correctly. I thought that was really smart.
Are you saying that, like, I've always kind of wondered why simulators have a PID controller at all. Like, you are in full control of the environment and the quad and the physics. Why don't you just make it do what I tell it to do? But they all have a PID controller. Are you saying that the physics engine, how fast your computer is, affects how the quad flies, and so the PID controller now like has to compensate for that?
Yeah, and so instead of trying to make you tune it or have the variability, now it will kind of auto-tune itself to make sure the PIDs are correct at whatever your performance is.
Well, that's pretty fucking cool. Yeah.
Also, added a big thing people have been asking for a lot, which is support for multiple rate models. So now you can use actual rates in a sim quick rates, KISS, all your fancy rates can all be there. Pretty cool.
Nice. I think most people who are going to be trying this out are people who already own Liftoff. If you have Liftoff, but maybe you haven't flown it in a while, maybe you stopped flying it because you thought the physics wasn't as good as you would have liked. Definitely go back and give it a try. Unfortunately, Blunty, and this was always going to be the case, but I feel so bad. We just did this gigantic simulator roundup. We tried so many simulators. And it took us like 2 months to try them all and think about what we wanted to say and make the video. And then, like, a month later, Liftoff releases this major update. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Everybody's going to get an update right after we do stuff, at some point. So, got to make the video sometime.
I guess we'll have to update that video someday.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, good job, Liftoff, guys. I'm a big fan of that, despite the fact that it didn't really, well, anyway. You can watch the whole roundup if it's on my channel.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, speaking of clickbait, people are going to think that we are clickbaiting them with this title. I would not put this in a title unless it was a direct quote, and it is. Orqa kind of screwed up PR-wise. What's the context for that, Blunty?
Yeah, so let's check that out. So basically, Sir John, I'm not sure his title, CEO or CFO, one of those.
I think he's a CEO, but I'm not sure.
So basically, some folks were asking about their handling of communication at the show, right? And he said, actually, we have all the information ready for all the new features and stuff, but we've directed this communication to our reseller channels rather than community. To be entirely honest, it's because we were focused on engineering part of the work. We had our heads down, working extremely hard to deliver the FPV control and start putting FPV1 pilot on the shelves. On top of that, we had a large presence at CES, and our preparations for the show had to be executed in parallel. We're a relatively small company, so yeah, we could have done this launch better if only we had more people on it, but sadly, we did not. And we're hearing your criticism. So they're working on some information for official releases. And so I don't know. For me, Orqa's a large company. They've got a lot going on. They're trying to do a lot of stuff. So my response to that was, what basis does this have in reality? You're saying you somehow were so busy you couldn't prepare a press release, right?
I feel like your name, ItsBlunty, can be taken two ways, Blunty.
That's fair.
Because you are an incredibly blunt person sometimes. I love that about you.
I feel like that was a fair question.
It's a fair question. And Surgeon, to be fair, Surgeon's answer was also blunt, which frankly, Orqa a lot of the times is a little bit not blunt, circuitous in their language. And he was just like, hey, that's the answer. We kind of screwed up PR-wise. So let me say some positive things just to try to balance out your negativity. One of them is, like, if they say that our focus was on getting this project to our Kickstarter backers, yeah, I mean, sure. I will never be mad at a company who takes so many companies like just piss off their Kickstarter supporters and then they like are late or don't deliver. And it's, okay, I'm down with that. But I don't know, Blunty, like, if we say that this was an honest response, we screwed up, we have bad PR. Like, it's not like Orqa's a small company.
Yeah, I think the most confusing thing about that is that, you're a company that's decided to make a line of products. Mm-hmm. So you've had a goggle for a little while, and you launched a controller, and you're trying to build this whole ecosystem we've discussed, which is, hey, we want to put these controllers out in the public so people can buy them and move up our process and use Ghost and all these things. Boy, it seems like a really good person in that position would be a PR rep to make sure that kind of stuff happens. Yeah. Like, if your goal is to make sure your public relations is good because you want to sell products, I think that's what most companies try to do. So for me, it does ring weird for them to say that, we don't do PR. We don't know how to do it. That seems like it would be good for them to start doing that.
Yeah, I identify with now. It's really easy for me to look at Orqa and say, look, you have 40 something engineers. I think you're a multi-million-dollar company. How could you say, oh, we're just bad at PR? But I think there's people like I've tried to hire people to do things not obscure or esoteric things, like very basic things like help me with marketing, help me with organization, businessy things that are just things that people do. And I've struggled so hard. And I could easily see somebody looking at me and going, you're a YouTube channel with 240,000 subscribers. You make however much revenue. Why aren't you doing better at X? You should be. And I'm just like, I don't know. That's just a defect in my personality. I'm just bad at this. And I don't know how to hire. One of the things I'm bad at is my Issa keeps telling me you should hire a business manager to do all the things that you're bad at. And one of the things I'm bad at is hiring people. Right. Which is a skill in and of itself. I haven't hired a business manager either. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I guess what I'm just talking about myself because I'm a narcissist. What I'm getting at is I kind of believe it. That even though you're like a 40-person company, at the end of the day, the CEO's personality and values dictate the direction the company takes. And if he's just bad at PR, then they just never hired a PR person. I mean, you could criticize that, but I find it plausible.
I mean, I do too, but I've run, roughly 30 people, a business with 30 people. And
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's when I ran the Grow facility. We had about 30 employees, plus 2 other businesses, but I don't really count those. But like part of my responsibility as that person running all that is to make sure that all those people continue to have work and jobs. And for me, like the way to do that was push the company forward, to sell more product, to get our wholesale in more locations, to get a higher value on our product, to find strains that other people weren't providing, right? And and all those kind of things were done through a marketing person, right? And then we had an ad person, and like there's different people who do those roles that we brought in and hired and vetted on purpose to do those roles because we knew they were valuable to growing the company. So like I totally understand, and it is their decision as a company to do this. But from the outside looking in, it doesn't look that great to me to see them like, hey, let's do all this into products. But what is the viability of these products? Where are these going to go? Who's going to buy them? How are they going to turn out? Like, and one of the things we're going to look at here, the last comment on here is the FOV debate. And a lot of people have been upset. We talked about the FOV is a lot lower than people have really wanted. And even if that FOV isn't necessarily a huge negative, maybe people will put on the goggles and enjoy it. Part of PR and marketing is to get out in front of this and make sure that this is understood ahead of time so people don't have the time to create these negative connotations.
Yeah, I think what you seem to be saying is that you would say that if it's true that, hey, we're just bad at PR, that you feel like that's a deficit and it's not a defense. I mean, if you're saying we're bad at PR, I'm sorry, I've realized that and I will make it better. But it's not an excuse. Like if you're the CEO of a 40-person company, I think what you're saying is that you need to be good at PR. That's part of your job. It's like the guy who makes your hamburger saying, "Sorry, I'm not good at pickles. I don't like pickles." Well, I want pickles. It's just what you do. You make burgers.
We're not good at finding pickles. Like if I tried to source pickles, I can't get the pickles, so we don't provide pickles. Like I get it, but people want pickles, and if you want to sell more burgers, you'll find pickles. Like that seems to be.
And as you point out, like the 37-degree field of view, that was always going to be a big deal.
Yes.
Like how do you not get out ahead of that? Right.
Right.
Because maybe they did, and they just
I think they weren't even thinking that it was going to be a problem because they weren't paying attention to the optics of that. They've been living in their own world for a while. Something we talked about with the FPV control too. This whole ecosystem they're building.
I was going to say that.
Right. Yeah, and it feels like the same idea here. It's like they're all in their own bubble, and then when the bubble is announced and launched and everybody goes like, this isn't the most amazing thing I've ever seen, then it's surprising to them. And that's part of PR. That's part of marketing,
It did feel like there was a little bit of, when the FPV control was announced and some people said, what do you mean it only works with Ghost? It did feel like there was a little of, no, you don't understand our great genius. And then kind of like, almost incredulity at people, almost like dictating, no, this is why it's so great. And it does smack a little bit of kind of being in your own bubble, and then the bubble gets popped when you actually try and sell the product to customers.
And all I mean, from a fundamental level, it just does a disservice to the people building a product that could be like good and people might want. It's like,
well, that's
you
the
don't
thing.
want to tarnish that, right?
By all accounts, they're good. They're good goggles.
Yes.
I almost like if they had come out and said, "Look, guys, it's 2022. The optics, the goggle would have been $800 if we'd have put a 44-degree field of view in it." And we couldn't do that. It's a smaller field of view. We know you're not going to like it, but it's still really good. We made the optics so everything is so good, and we think you're still going to like this goggle. We didn't raise the price, something like that, but with more PR sheen on it.
Yeah,
like I would have been okay, I buy it.
Or even the CEO or CFO getting on video and talking about it, or doing a product announcement or a press release or something.
Yeah. But the response is more, it's fine. Why are you guys so pissed off about this? Look, he tried it. He loves it. Did you love it? Oh, I did love it. Yes, thank you for sending them to me.
Right. No, that's
yeah.
100%.
So you guys, why do you even care about FOV? Whenever a manufacturer says, why do you guys even care about spec? It's because they're losing in that spec, right? Obviously.
Yeah. Well, and also a lot of the comparisons, we'll read here too, are comparisons to the V1 and issues they had in the V1 optics. But it's hard because a lot of those comparisons are not to other goggles that can handle this optical engine well at a larger FOV. So I feel like we should show their comments.
Yeah. Halfboard says they're going to sell out either way. Why bother with PR? You have a comment about that?
I don't know. Will they really sell out?
I mean, they probably will sell out. Probably, I don't know how many they made, but they'll probably sell out.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting.
All right. Let's show the rest of the comment. Well, any part in particular you want to make sure we get?
Yeah, so he made this other comment as a follow-up, because he did say that he would make some comments about the goggle engine and stuff. So I did want to point out just here that there is a nice comment about the decisions they made. We've asked a lot, like why they did these lenses, or why they had to do this FOV, and what the difference is really. So yeah, this is just a lot of basically commenting on, explaining exactly why. He's talking about pin cushioning and geometric distortion and some of the things we commented on before or that were said, but this kind of just lays it all out for people, in case they need to know. So basically, the real FOV is the same, but the apparent FOV, because the optical engine is smaller, right?
Wait. What does that mean? I was just reading that. How is the real FOV the same, but the apparent FOV is smaller? What does that mean?
I don't know. I'm reading what he said.
I guess what he's saying is that the screen is not taking up the full size of the sort of optics. They could have made the screen bigger, but it would be distorted, so they sort of zoomed it out so it's not taking up the full size. So it would be sharper, clean.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how you measure FOV, I guess, is my confusion there, because you would think FOV is just what you see through the optical engine you have. So I'm not really sure how that works.
Okay. That makes sense. If you think about, like oftentimes lenses, toward the edge of the lens, you'll get a lot more distortion, whereas the center of the lens is where it's the most sort of linear and square and so forth. So it sounds like they reduced it to keep it within the sort of the sweet spot of the lens. It's just, this is all,
They're basically saying that, like, you can either have a bigger image or a good looking or beautiful image, but I'm not sure that I would agree with that. I mean, maybe that's true for their optical engine. That's part of what I was saying, but I don't know that that's true for things like the HDO2 or the Skyzone Sky 4X.
Well, right. The first thing I would do if I had these was put them next to an HDO2 or an HDO or a Skyzone Sky 4X, and I would see if I believe you that it's more beautiful. I mean, I'm just going to look at them. The Orcas have always been good-looking goggles.
All right. Well, at least they are trying to communicate a little bit, and we did find out why they didn't communicate. So at least we're getting some talking out of them.
Speaking of communicating, I should say that Surgeon reached out to me and asked if we could do an interview talking about some of these issues. So we were going to do that interview on Monday, but for various reasons, it had to be rescheduled. But we will be doing that interview as soon as he can, and that speaks again to their desire to communicate about their decisions and sort of get the word out there, and guess credit to them. I mean, like, I think it's obvious that I'm not going to be like, tell me again how great your goggle is and how smart you are. I'm gonna grill him a little bit and ask him questions, and he knows that. And so for him to be willing to come on and be interviewed, I think not just in a self-serving way because it makes good content for me. I think I respect that decision, and speaks to their desire to try and communicate, which is what we're criticizing them for not doing. So credit where credit's due.
Absolutely.
Okay. Aerobrat says, doesn't DJI tell a different story, big FOV and clear image? Several things about that. The main thing about that is that DJI goggles are freaking enormous. So obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious. If you make the lenses bigger, then you can have a bigger screen while still having good optical quality. But because of the limitation of the size of the micro displays and the size of the goggles, the lenses can only be so big, and therefore you can only make the image so big without getting distorted. Yeah, nobody wants the Orcas to be as big as the DJI goggles. Okay. And that, all right, I believe, brings us to the end of the news. Is that right?
Absolutely.
That's the last one?
Absolutely.
We got to do the super chats. T-Bird FPV, I don't think it'll be a live interview. I would like to... I don't think it should be a live interview. I'd rather do it without the pressure of live chat. I would rather sort of have a conversation with him and let that go the direction we want to go without all you guys shouting over our shoulders. Obviously, you guys will get your say in the comments, and obviously Orqa will reply in the comments. But I think especially for a sensitive topic like this, I just want to have the conversation with him. Brian Owens, thanks for £2 in the super chat. Miguel T, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I'm interested in racing, but I get lost in the circuit in the sim. What's the general rule? How do you know where to go next? I mean, I feel like that's a really... So first of all, Miguel, that's a really common problem. Do not feel alone about that. So many people struggle to know where to go. When I learn a course, the first thing I do is I watch somebody else fly the course, and I try to just get a visual reference on, after I go through this gate, where am I going next? And it takes me a while to get it. It takes me several tries to get it and start. But when I first start flying the course, the only thing I'm thinking about is learning the order of the gates. And especially with Tiny Whoop courses, Blunty, sometimes Tiny Whoop courses are insane. It's like zoop, 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 zoop. And it's like, oh my God. But you just have to sort of take it one gate at a time. And it's memorization. It's like if you were trying to memorize a list of things for your final exam, you would just start memorizing them, and eventually you'd memorize them all. How do you learn a track, Blunty? Any insights?
I actually recorded learning the first track of the We Bleed series this week because I wanted to see if I could gain any insight from how I learned the track. But I don't really. I just kind of fly it, and then I mentally am breaking it into pieces. So like, there's like 3 ladders down, but sometimes you go 3 ladders down and you go back through like the bottom the wrong way. Right. So I think I just, like, in my head, when I get to that point, I think ladder through, and that's just kind of how my head starts to work. And then it starts to get default, where I just remember that's how it goes, Yeah. But it's really just like a combination of moves. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I'm going to yaw here and loop 3 times. Then I've got to go over and back through. And that's kind of just like, that's a segment. So when I get in the bathroom, that's the part of that track that I have to do. And then when I get back out, then I have to do this track, back, forth. And I just like split it out. So. Yeah.
As you get more familiar with racecourse design, you start to recognize elements. Yeah. And so those elements will group together, and you're like, a ladder is a classic example. You've got a ladder, and it's a 3-high ladder. And so I'm going to enter from the left, and I'm going to spiral up it to the right. Or I'm going to enter from the left, and I'm going to spiral up twice, and then I'm going to go around it and come out the other side, or, but you start to put that together. But it's just a matter of practice. And some people are going to sort of innately have the ability to memorize tracks, and other people are going to struggle with details.
But the more tracks you learn, the better. And sims are amazing for that, because sims have tons and tons and tons and tons of tracks. So you can literally just click a track and learn that track. And then after you feel like you've learned that track, go to the next track and then learn that track. And as you learn all those tracks, like you said, you'll start to see those elements and start to see those sections and start to get a feel for like how you learn those. So.
And sims are great because also they just mark the next gate. And sometimes there's even a flight line. I would say probably if you're going to be racing in real life, focus on multi-GP style realistic tracks. Learning like a DRL track where you're flying through an auditorium on the moon. I mean, it will teach you to memorize track layouts, but it's not going to be like anything you would see in the real world.
Also, something you mentioned, which I'm going to give a tip on, is turn off the gate indicators once you learn the track. If you're flying in a race, you can turn them back on, but I would say if you're just learning the track and trying to learn the track better, turn them off. Because when you get into a real race in real life, you're going to realize there's no indicators.
That's a good point.
And it is not forgiving to remind you to turn around to go back to the gate you missed. It's all your job. And it becomes very overwhelming when there's music playing and there's an announcer going and there's 3 other people zipping away on the track and you're trying not to lose. So yeah, just be conscious of that and remember that you've got to learn where to go. Gate indicators are not there. So
yeah, good point. Use the gate indicators to learn the track, but then turn the gate indicators off and try and remember the track. Yep, it's just memorization. And eventually you just get it. There you go. Thank you, Reed in the Wind, for a $5 super chat. Thanks for your help regarding GoPro issues. Same to Blunty for troubleshooting Crossfire last night on Discord. Blunty, you're so active on Discord. I really appreciate you providing so much help to people.
We've got to get stuff working. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Alex DeFelice, thank you for a $5 super chat. Has anybody tried recording audio on the Orqa V2 goggles? I had a fix for the buzzing in the originals. I really want to know if Orqa addressed this. I haven't, and I don't know because I don't have the V2 goggles. So if you have recorded audio with the V2 goggles, Alex DeFelice would like to know. And maybe somebody could mention in the comments, or maybe you could ask. I mean, you should be able to just ask Orqa support about that, right? They should be able to just tell you.
I would say so.
Yeah. All righty. That is going to do it for the FPV news today. We will see you guys back here next week. But first, we're going to do all our standard call to action. Like.
Yeah, if you've been here, you should know. Get that like on. Get to hit that button, that thumbs up.
Hit the like button.
If you're going to hit it an odd number of times, if you're going to hit it a bunch. And then go down there and comment after this is over, if you don't mind. Go to the JB Livestream Clips channel, which you can find.
Linked in the video description.
In the video description, and subscribe to that and check out some clips from this show, and email news@fpvknowitall.com if you have submissions for the news. Those are always appreciated to make my job easier.
That clips channel is so valuable. If you missed any part of the news, or if you remember a story that we did, you're like, I know they talked about this on the news, but which week was it? Go over to the it's the Joshua Bardwell live stream clips, because apparently there are some other people out there with the initials JB. Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips channel. It's linked in the video description, and you can just search that channel for each of the topics, as well as live stream highlights from my other live streams if you're interested. So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Thanks to everybody who left super chats, who left comments, and of course to the patrons in the Discord server. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.